Hello and welcome to the Cooperative Game Chat. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero, my man. My big man. How are you?
I'm all right. Had a long day of work, but
Well.
the day's over and it's time to cut loose.
Alright, let's do it. Don't cut too loose. I can smell you from here. Anyway, uh this week we've got some good topics, but let's first start with what you have been playing. Because as always, I'm not playing much. But you have something that you just purchased that you just started dabbling in. So what have you been playing?
So, my tax return came in last week, so
Ooh.
I was just like, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and spend a little bit of that and do some window shopping and see if Analog has any more um Mega SGs because I wanted to buy one when I bought my house back in October, and at the time they were just they were sold out on all the color variations. I was like, well, damn, okay, not a big deal. I'll just buy a Mega SG later. And
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, they had one in stock. And I was just like, all right,
Nice.
I'm gonna go pick one up. And then picked up two of the Retrobit official Sega branded 6-button Genesis controllers.
Oh, nice.
So have those, and they're wireless to boot, so I can hang out on my couch and everything instead of having a cord sort of dangle around and whatnot. And because um, one of my favorite tools for the Genesis is a little bit hard to find, I decided to pick up a cheap cartridge as my first cartridge to um, put onto the Mega SG because, unfortunately, to my dismay, I found out my parents gave away all of my Sega Genesis stuff. So
Oh,
so my first print copy of Revenge of Shinobi with the boss that after a while turns into Batman and then turns into Spider-Man. Yeah, that
yeah.
one's lost to the wind now.
Oh, well. I remember that too. I was never a Sega guy. My parents, when they bought game consoles, they bought Nintendo all the time. But I later got into Sega games, and there's some good ones. Sonic sucks, by the way. I hate to say this to people who are fans of Sonic, but I I can't understand that you have a platformer where there's very little platforming, and you're just running from left to right and not doing anything but running. That's not anyway. We'll get out of that one. But
Yeah.
Sega's got some classics. I will admit, and I'm glad I got to play them. Revenge of Shinobi is not one I've played though.
Yeah, it's an action platformer. It's a little bit of a challenge, but still very good to this day. And coincidentally, that was one of the games on the Sega Six Pack cartridge that I decided to load up, since that game is very near and dear to my heart.
Hmm.
So playing it on my 4K TV was kind of amazing because just the analog consoles, for anyone not familiar with them, they're FPGA recreations of the original consoles. So instead of having to do something really risky, like if you're not skilled with electronics and trying to solder an RGB mod onto your original, say, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, or your Genesis, instead, just these ones are pre-wired with an HDMI out, so all you just need to do is just plug it into your modern day TV and boom, you're off to the races.
Yeah,
So so
and
being able to play Revenge of Shinobi with no distortions on the pixels or everything, and just having it just as crunchy as it looked on my former 14-inch Sony TV that I had as a kid, it was just something truly special.
yeah, and aesthetically, the consoles look really nice too. Like they do a really good job in analog of making a product that is not only functional but desirable looking. So
Yeah.
I ordered the Pocket late last year, and I'm on the I think it's the second shipment of it, which is Q4 of this year. So I have to wait for that, but I can't wait because I Game Boy Advance is one of my favorite systems of all time. So I
Yep.
cannot wait to get it. Um, oh, that's cool. So you're probably gonna get more into that, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to kind of revisit some of the old classics and stuff because I also have a Super NT as well. So that's always fun to just pop in my English cartridge of A Link to the Past and just kind of play that and everything. So
Hmm.
that's always fun to do and revisit. And I imagine I'll probably have sort of the same moments with the Mega SG and everything. And for those wondering about both the Super NT and Mega SG, yes, there is an SD card slot on it that is normally used for firmware updating, but there are unofficial jailbreak hacks that do let you run um, ROM files that you can download online, and that can be cool for anyone who's into ROM hacks. But this is not me condoning the use of ROMs for playing illegal backups and everything. But I would not blame anyone who would end up using the jailbreak firmwares to do that, especially because unfortunately, old school cartridge collecting has gotten to be such a speculator's market
I
now.
know. Oh God, it's terrible. But when we talked last, you said you're going to sail the pirate seas to actually get the correct. You're going to get that. What was it called? The Mega Drive or the Everdrive?
The Mega EverDrive Pro,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because there's some Sega CD titles that never made it over to the US.
Oh,
And the neat part about the Mega EverDrive Pro is that it has a bunch of FPGA cores that allow it to run Sega CD ROM files without needing a Sega CD unit plugged into your console. So instead of having to try to find a working Sega CD unit, I can just load the files onto this ROM cartridge and play through it and stuff like that. Because apparently there's some really good Sega CD games that were made but never came over to the US, but they have gotten fan translations which make them completely playable in English. So for me, I would love to just sort of go, take a video game historian journey into some of these historic games that never came over, and that's most of my motivation um, on something like the Mega EverDrive Pro, but also the ability to um, play some of the classic games on the Genesis that are now unfortunately collector's games now.
yeah.
Um, that would be another nice thing to do because I think one game that is on the top 100 charts of 100 Genesis games to play is stuff like Beyond Oasis, which was sort of like a Zelda clone sort of game, but it was set in um, it was set in the Middle East, so just
Hmm.
sort of, I guess you could say it was sort of themed, kind of like the Arabian Nights tales because it's just got a lot of that sort of mythology in there. Developed by a Japanese studio, and I want to say there were some pretty renowned video game musicians who worked on that one too, and then of course some of the classics that have unfortunately become expensive, um, stuff like stuff like the Streets of Rage games, which um, I think those are now pretty pricey collector's items now. So being able to kind of revisit those on my modern day TV would just be nice to do.
Okay. That's cool. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I they don't talk about the business side of analog too much, but I'm assuming that since they are constantly innovating and making new systems, that they make good money on what they sell. So it's going to be interesting if they go into the CD based systems because I have a lot of PS1 games that I would really like to play again. But I have a PS3. I can probably still play them. But I just think it would be interesting to see if they will go to that route at some point.
Yeah,
Because
I think part of it is just going to depend on when patents expire.
yeah,
Uh, Mostly because the next big announcement is going to be um, the console that is basically a NEC Turbo Duo system. So essentially it's a TurboGrafx 16 plus the CD drive just attached to it.
Hmm.
For anyone who's listening to this out in North America. So instead of having to get um, a separate turbo CD unit to kind of Voltron up to your TurboGrafx 16, this one uses the Japanese style Turbo Duo sort of look to it. Definitely excited for that one since I never owned an NEC console, so but there are a lot of games from the NEC side of things that I've loved and ended up being remade on other systems. A big one probably being Castlevania Rondo of Blood.
Hmm. Okay. I love Rondo of Blood.
Yeah.
um,
Um, so that one will be interesting to see, but I think Analog Sight says that they won't be talking about that system until sometime later this year.
okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. Like I said, I'm probably going to get my pocket at the end of this year, so that'll be interesting to compare that. So let's move on. Do you have something that you've been playing there, Zero?
Yeah, picked up Tiny Tina's Wonderlands last week. Sort of as something fun and cathartic to play
Okay.
after work and everything. And yeah, I mean it's just Borderlands in a nutshell all over again, except instead of just playing in the setting of Borderlands, you're playing sort of like a D&D campaign that's run by Tiny Tina and some of her friends and everything. And the character you pick is basically a player character that is being tossed around in this campaign and everything. So, best way to sum it up is it's Borderlands just with a D&D like skin on it.
I've been a fan of Border. I've been a fan of the gameplay in Borderlands specifically. Borderlands One, I beat twice. I had two different characters and beat. It. I loved it. I've beaten all of them except for the pre-sequel. I kind of fell off of that one. Um, I will say the humor in it sucks. I think it.
Yeah,
I think it is. Not only the humor but the writing sucks in that entire series, and I think one of the worst characters in the series is, of course, Tiny Tina, which is the reason why I didn't bother buying it. Because if you're telling me that she's the main character of this, and I can't stand that character, I don't see how I'm going to enjoy this. Is she
yeah.
all over the place in the game? Is she all over the game, or is she just a background character? What's the deal?
She's essentially the dungeon master, so she'll narrate some of the scenarios and stuff like that. So it'll be something like you wander into a dungeon, um, and all things seem calm, and then like one or two of her friends may chime in with some commentary, like oh man, this is boring. Where are the enemies? Where are the monsters? And then she'll kind of interject and boom, it turns out that it was an ambush, and then that's when just enemies will appear and you'll just kind of go shooting stuff up, and then once you clear the wave she'll kind of narrate a little bit here and there or
Mm.
whatnot.
Okay, so then it's got a little bit of what do they call it? Unreliable narrator in it, so you don't know what to expect because the narrator is not there just to narrate, but to actually affect what's going on in the game.
Right.
Okay. Um, doesn't really answer my question though. Is she as annoying as she usually is?
I really didn't have an affinity for Tina, but
Okay.
she doesn't annoy me either. So for me, I'm just like, okay, it's just Tina.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, if you don't like her, then yeah, probably this may not be a fun fit for you. The gunplay is just as good as just as good as the previous Borderlands game. So if you're into that and then into the loot explosions, then yeah, still got all of that.
Yeah, and they just didn't they just release DLC for that?
I think it's the first piece of content for the season pass.
Yeah,
It was just released, I believe, last week.
yeah,
Uh,
and that was 3 weeks after it was released, so that's interesting.
yeah.
Um, hmm. Uh, like I said, I'm a fan of Borderlands. I honestly can't stand the humor, but I suffered through it to play the game. Um,
The As far as the writing goes, it's it's better than 3 and pre-sequel.
okay,
Not as great or as funny as 2.
all right,
Um, Maybe it's either a quarter step or a half step funnier than Borderlands 1.
okay.
So, just to give you an idea of where the writing and the humor sits.
So it's not completely insufferable, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Um, this is gonna be a game where I'm probably gonna buy it on sale, or it will like everything. And I'll buy it on sale when the Ultimate Edition is cheap because I hate buying. This is my pet peeve. I hate buying something on sale, but then still have to pay an exorbitant amount for the DLC. I'd rather buy the DLC and the game all together at a cheap price. Like if they're like $50 all together, then I'm like, okay, that's a good price. I can take that.
Yeah,
But
I wouldn't blame you either
yeah,
because just yeah, that's the way to do it. And their sites to track that sort of stuff down. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
Deku Deals is pretty good about notifying you if the game's on your wish list and everything. And they track both digital and physical pricing too. So shout outs to Deku Deals. They've been one of the reasons that I save so much money on gaming these
yeah.
days.
um, what else is there? Oh, I kind of heard that the gunplay is actually kind of taking a back seat in this. It's more spell based, isn't it?
So guns do have their place,
Okay.
just like every Borderlands. So you'll have your guns that do sort of really crazy and wacky things and whatnot. And um, if you're if you have your PSN account linked to the excuse me, Gearbox Shift social media platform,
Mm-hmm.
then when you connect Shift up to your PSN, Steam, or whichever account that you're using to Shift, you'll get some promo Shift guns, and one of the guns I believe fires out vampire bats and does life stealing. So
Mm.
it kind of takes the goofy vein of the weapons in the past Borderlands. So
Okay.
if you're into that, then yeah, the guns still do sort of interesting things. But where it does things a little differently is instead of grenades, you have spells,
Okay.
and some of the spells do offensive things. So you've got spells that might shoot bolts of dark magic that will do that will do critical damage against enemies. You might have a spell that basically just shoots like a stream of lava under the earth and then tracks an enemy, and then once it hits the enemy, you just see an explosion of lava from the ground just erupting out of them.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, you've got some of your fantasy staples like an ice spell that shoots like icy blades at an enemy, but you've also got some spells that are defensive as well too. Like there might be a spell that puts shields up for you that gives you a little bit of staying power to keep in the fight. You might have a spell that um, gives you quite a large damage buff, but after that damage buff is over, it might life steal like 25% of your life for using the spell. And and then sometimes you've got spells ones that might drop down turrets that start shooting things for you. So that's where the spell part comes in. They essentially replace the grenades um, that previous Borderlands games have had.
Well, it sounds like they well, do the spells make combat more interesting, or is it just that they just did a hot swap and it's the same thing?
For me, I feel the spells are interesting.
Okay, cool.
Mostly because I went with the Necromancer class, and most of the spells I end up picking are more towards the offensive side. So, like if a spell book drops, I'll usually check and see what it does. It'll be like, ooh, I wonder if this is an offensive spell, and if it's something like defensive, okay, let me just stuff it in my backpack, and I'll sell it at the vending machine later, and get some cash back to maybe buy something else.
Hmm.
But if it's an offensive spell and it's better than what I've got, I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll give this a shot. Let me see how this one works, and if it plays a little bit plays a little bit closer to my sensibilities, then great. I'm all for it. Or if it's not something that I like, I might just go, okay, let me just swap back to the previous spell I had.
Now, are you playing the single player or are you playing multiplayer?
For now, single player. I've
Hmm.
got a friend who has it on PC, so I'll
Okay.
probably be reaching out to him to maybe set up a crossplay lobby or something.
Oh, speaking of, let's segue into our first topic.
Yeah.
Unless you have more that you have to talk about.
Oh no, that's basically the gist of my experience with Borderlands, or excuse me, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Okay. Anyway, segue into the first topic. The first topic is kind of a funny one. It's funny you mentioned crossplay because it turns out Sony finally allowed crossplay into Borderlands 3. Not Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. That's got it. That's got it. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe Tiny Tina's Wonderlands had been announced with crossplay but it wouldn't be available immediately since they had some logistical things to work
Mm.
out. But they did say it does have crossplay. Crossplay will be available soon after launch, and it has since gone live.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, for those who are still playing Borderlands 3, it turns out that Sony's version of it didn't have crossplay at all. And it took until the release and success of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands to allow to Sony to allow to have Borderlands 3 to have crossplay. I mean, Zero. If this doesn't show how backwards Sony is sometimes with their policies, I don't know what else does. But what do you? I already said my piece. What do you think of them finally allowing crossplay?
It's just really funny because uh, I know I ranted about it in my Discord channel and everything.
Hmm.
So, um, a few years back, once again, um, this kind of shows the weirdness of the new PlayStation CEO, Jim Ryan. So, this was right around the time of the big Minecraft crossplay announcement,
Yeah.
where Microsoft made this wonderful little commercial showing all the platforms you could crossplay on Minecraft. So Android, Apple, um, Oculus VR, just all the platforms, and then of course the big mega crowning moment, the Xbox player and the Nintendo Switch player sort of joining the party,
Yeah.
and just big moment. And of course, first question everyone had was, okay, well, where's PlayStation? And uh, as as naturally would things would have it, Microsoft responded about that saying, "Hey, so due to some technical and logistical reasons, we are not able to get crossplay going for PlayStation. Um, we don't have anything further to talk about at this time. If things change, then we will change things accordingly." And of course, that got people rushing over to Jim Ryan and saying, "Hey, why are you guys holding out on Minecraft crossplay?" And Jim Ryan had said something just it just echoed of the 90s Nintendo that sort of sanitized everything before it even touched the gaming public's fingers. And the statement he had was something to the tune of, well, Minecraft is a wonderful kids game, and, just we don't want really nasty and toxic people jumping into kids' lobbies where we can't ensure the highest quality of service that only we can ensure on PlayStation Network. So, for that reason, we have not joined in on the Minecraft crossplay because we would rather keep our network clean and um, offer the best service, unlike the other platforms.
Yeah.
And
It's think of the children as you. Yeah.
exactly. So it was kind of what that made me think of. But the other thing it sort of made me think on was when Borderlands 3 had announced that crossplay was coming. There was also a clarification saying, "Hey, by the way, crossplay will not be available on PlayStation." And of course, people took to social media and sort of um, pinged Randy Pitchford on platforms like Twitter, saying, "Hey, what's going on with PlayStation? Why is PlayStation being left out?" And I believe Randy Pitchford had kind of pushed back and said, "Yeah, so about that. So Sony isn't allowing us to offer cross-platform play on the PS4 version of Borderlands 3 unless we pay them a very large fee for it." So,
Oh God.
um, so of course, a lot of people sort of took to kind of complaining to PlayStation, going, "Hey, why are you doing this? This is one of the biggest co-op games ever, and you guys are just saying, oh, we're going to hold this crossplay feature hostage, even though we're more than happy to turn on crossplay for games like Among Us and uh, Rocket League on PlayStation. So what is the deal?" And of course, Sony just didn't say a thing and just kind of kept on going, and then here we are few years later. Hey, and of course and the announcement came from Randy Pitchford at PAX, so it was just, hey guys, so yeah, Borderlands 3, we're getting crossplay for PlayStation very soon.
Well, I think it stands to note as well that Randy Pitchford, as a personality and as a person of the gaming industry, not very well liked.
No,
Not, and I'm not talking about what games journalists think because that doesn't matter in the business side, but he's got a reputation of not being an easy guy to work with. So,
no, he's a bit difficult, and I've had third-hand accounts of stories of people who have worked at Gearbox and have said that, yeah, just it's a very, very interesting sort of environment, and it can be a little bit wild and crazy in a bad way too.
like he is, and you can tell by how he front faces himself. He's a pretty immature person to an extent. Like you can be into him being into magic is one thing, but apparently he. There was a report that came out a couple of years ago about his management style, and it was very combative. It was very immature, a lot of immature and inappropriate jokes. Things as a leader you really can't do. He does on a regular basis, pretty much. So,
Yeah.
and then when it came to him getting out bonuses, didn't he stiff his staff and give himself a huge bonus that ended up buying that magic castle in California?
Yeah, if I remember right, it was the bonuses for Borderlands 2. He ended up, I think, stiffing the QA and development staff their bonus for that, and apparently made some sort of rationale that, oh well, this, that, and whatever's, and um, so bonuses aren't going to be issued. So yeah, sorry. Oh, by the way, I'm paying myself one hell of a bonus.
Yeah.
And then that's not even to get into stuff like the Sega controversies that he's had.
Yeah. So I think that may have something to do with it, because if you're not a huge company, or if you're not a really hot game, it seems like Sony doesn't play ball very well. And it's surprising. I don't think Minecraft is still crossplay, is it? I think that's still a
Um,
walled garden in PlayStation.
I believe it finally got crossplay, but it was very late and it was kind of a subdued sort of announcement.
Let me
I'm not
check.
sure. I'm almost curious myself.
Let me check here. Minecraft PS4 crossplay. Uh, it's crossplay between PS4 and PC.
Oh yeah, so not truly crossplay.
No. Huh. That's weird. Anyway. Okay. Um, what else is there? I mean, barring the fact it's Randy Pitchford and who he is and what he's like. I mean, every including Nintendo, every gaming company is for crossplay, because it just means more money coming to them. And when more people are more attached to a product and they're willing to go to different systems to play it, it's just better for you in the end, because that means they stay attached to that product. Why would
Yeah.
you? I don't understand why you would. Yeah, you just like with free to play games. All you have to do is charge the interest that you would on the DLC, and then you get money from it. I just don't understand, unless they really believe in this wall garden approach, which has been proven to be not sound business investments when it comes to gaming. I mean, like, they're not Apple. They can't really say that people prefer their wall garden approach, because again, they're not Apple. They're not a big tech company. They don't have they have a fan base, but it's not fervent enough where they will hang on their every word. So
Yeah. Um, and actually, according to the official Minecraft site, PS PS4 is now compatible with um, Windows 10, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and Android, iOS, and even VR platforms like Oculus and Samsung VR. So
it's good one of us digging deep in that. I just googled it, and it said PS4 and PC only. So
yeah,
okay,
so I mean it's been fixed now, but yeah, just it took them forever to just say, fine, you all want crossplay? Here, you can have crossplay. It's just like if a developer has made it as easy as just as easy as possible to play with friends who may not have the same console, just go with the flow. It does you no good to just um, wall that feature off and then try to play it off like your platform has much better players, because face it, even PlayStation has its own share of really, really toxic players. If the intent was to wall everything off and say that PlayStation's the better place to play.
yeah. I mean, this is just overall how Sony is with almost everything they do now. Like, they are behind the eight ball on nearly every technological aspect when it comes to gaming. Like look at a few weeks ago we talked about their PlayStation Plus offerings, and how they refuse to do day one purchases, or day one titles for their pass, knowing that's going to kneecap their Game Pass. It, they just I think they forget it's not 2016 anymore, and they they had the last generation they owned. They owned because Microsoft fucked up, and it really had nothing to do exactly with how they did. It's just Microsoft dropped the ball so bad that they ended up winning by default. So, and they're under the impression that they are the gold standard now, and that people will just flock them because they're PlayStation. But it's not the case. So I wonder if they continue doing this, if this is going to hurt them, because it just seems like if you're the more and more anti-consumer you become, because this is an anti-consumer type of sentiment. The more they become anti-consumer, or they pussyfoot around certain aspects of the gaming industry, the more it's going to hurt them in the end.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just if anything, for me, it's just been kind of more funny, just seeing them sort of preach sanctimonious about just how better and how much cleaner their platforms are, because they don't want to turn on crossplay for certain games. And then, of course, when you have games that are truly massive phenomenons like Among Us, then at that point it's just like, okay, well, we've got no choice, because this game is is the current meta phenomenon. We have to do what they want and give them crossplay, because if we don't, then we're going to be shamed into it. So it's just kind of weird that that's where the breaking point is, rather than going, okay, well, this game seems to be designed in mind to play with friends no matter what their platform is, but they're considered a small volume game, so fuck them. We're just gonna hold the crossplay feature hostage behind a very, very exorbitant fee that either they'll balk at saying that they're interested, or they'll just go, okay, fine, you can have your damn fee. Just take your damn money and let us turn on our damn feature.
Mm. So do you think this will hurt them business-wise in any sort of way if they keep doing this?
Oh yeah. I mean, because not all games are instant phenomenons on release. There are some games that may take a little bit of momentum to catch on, and maybe there will be that one game that has that exact scenario where just it's not initially a phenomenon, but maybe some group of Twitch streamers start streaming and they're just like, oh my god, this is so fun.
Oh yeah.
You guys got to get this game, but who knows? That streamer might say something like, yeah, but fuck the PlayStation version, fuck those guys. They didn't turn on crossplay, so
Yeah.
fuck that version. Don't buy that version. Don't even buy a PlayStation Plus subscription, because fuck those guys. And then
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say, gamers are very fickle when it comes to their tastes. So if you give them one reason to say, don't get this because A, B, or C, it could be something as, it could be lesser graphics, load times aren't as good, or if it's something as big as crossplay, you'll have a bunch of gamers who will say, don't get that version, it's borked, and then you lose sales. So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
But yeah, so I mean, we'll see if this pattern continues, or if Jim Ryan being at the helm finally realizes, hey, we can't just kind of sit on our laurels and go, yeah, well, we're PlayStation. We've got the exclusive games that everyone wants. Everyone will come to us.
I know, and I think that's where they're at right now. So they think they can get away with it because they're number one, and it's. I don't think they're in as solid ground as they think they are.
Oh no, definitely not.
So I don't know. Anyway, okay. With that, let's get to our next topic. We normally don't do topics like this because this doesn't really, well,
I would say this is gaming industry adjacent.
Yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't affect business per se, but because of because of the man behind what the story is, I think we should discuss it and discuss I think the ramifications and why it's important to know about this. So Kotaku did an article, and Kotaku does some good articles now and then, and it was from Ari Notice. Report: Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg killed news about Bobby Kotick's restraining order. What they did was between the years of 2016 and 2019, they pretty much suppressed a story about, I think we discussed it earlier, it's about a restraining order that Bobby Kotick received from an ex-girlfriend that he had, that he, according to that ex-girlfriend, he abused. But since he was dating Sheryl Sandberg, who was the chief operating officer of Facebook, Facebook suppressed that story on that platform. I find it interesting for one reason too. I don't remember this story at all on Twitter or on other gaming websites. Did
Yeah,
you at all? I mean, I don't remember this because I know
I
it. Go ahead.
I saw a few blurbs about it, but
Hmm.
again, just the few blurbs I saw were usually from a news site directly, and anyone who tried to post on social media just it didn't stick for some reason. And
Yeah.
of course, for me, it was with social media being sort of a thing, it was just kind of like, oh, that's weird. Just this seems like a very, very big story. Why isn't it on social media? What's the deal? And, you know, at the time I didn't pay any mind to it. I was just like, okay, well, interesting story. Kind of odd that social media sites haven't really caught on it. So, I guess maybe it's not that big a deal. Who knows?
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Yeah, because that's the one thing that when I read this, I and we're both pretty clued into what goes on, but Bobby Kotick being uh not such a great person only really reached the zenith last year when the sexual harassment stuff came out about Activision Blizzard. So I know there was other stories that were little blips on the radar. I think around 2013, 2014, but I don't remember this specifically. And so I'm really just curious. Obviously Facebook did this, but Twitter. I mean, unless and the answer probably is the and some will say I'm being conspiratorial about this, but the the social media giants talk to each other. It's clear they do. Just look at the banning of Alex Jones, how it went from just Twitter, then all of a sudden Facebook, Apple, blah 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 blah. All of a sudden, within a day, they all banned him. You don't
Yeah.
have that unless they're all talking. So there's proof there that they do communicate and they do run a cabal as to what is allowed on all platforms and what isn't. So the reason I think this is important is because for two reasons. One, those of you who think that Bobby Kotick is going to get his comeuppance, I would temper those expectations. Because even though this report came out and it showed what Sheryl Sandberg may have done and what Facebook did, nothing's going to happen. So it's just a story about it's just a story that suppressing news happens, and it's not just a left or right thing. It is who has power. And the other thing is, I mean, yeah, he's not gonna get his comeuppance. He's gonna get more money out of this deal, And if you think he's going away, I hate to break this to you, he's probably going to be in the gaming business for quite a long time after he leaves Activision Blizzard. So, I don't really know what else to say about this other than I'm not particularly surprised by this. I'm pretty sickened, to be completely honest. But I think if some of you are thinking this is it, this is going to be the thing that kills Kotick, no, it's not. All it shows is that he's so well connected politically that he has friends inside of oh god, Silicon Valley that will back him up and will do his bidding. So I don't know what else more to say about it.
Yeah, yeah, I think I'm with you on just how sort of sickening it is because, of course, some people are just like, well, just he's not that bad of a guy. Just he's um, every big exec has some sort of dirty laundry. No big deal. It's just like, yeah, well, it becomes sort of a big deal when they're hiding something that is obviously a potentially criminal. I mean, and going up to his ex-girlfriend apparently and harassing the hell out
Yeah,
of her that she had to get a restraining order.
yeah,
Pretty bad stuff,
right.
especially in the midst of this sexual harassment case and and all that's going on with the Activision Blizzard union workers against the company and everything. So it's just more gasoline on the fire.
Right. I don't mind people questioning a narrative and people questioning whether something is legitimate or not. You should. You should always question certain things when it's being reported. You should look up the sources. You should do your own research. And if there's a report that says something that you may not may not agree with, but you think it's kind of fishy, it's okay to be skeptical. That said, he has a reputation now of didn't he threaten his secretary at one point?
Yeah, I believe he had threatened his secretary with a death threat or something.
Yes. Um, he's done other things that are pretty unscrupulous. He is not known as a nice guy. He's not known as except if you're Michael Pachter, who likes Bobby Kotick and thinks that he's does a good job. Well, I'll leave that there. I think if there's enough smoke out there, there's fire. Like if there's something, if it keeps coming up, something is up. That's how I think. If one person, if a famous person, all of a sudden gets accused of something, and it's the first time you ever hear of it, and it seems out of character to a certain extent, I think it's okay to be skeptical and say, I don't know about this. But if it keeps coming up, like Bill Cosby, if it keeps coming up and more people are saying this is going on and things like that, then you would have to really sit there and go, I think there's something up here. And with Kotick, it's clear that he, quite plainly, is not a very good person. So,
Yeah, and then of course, kind of what makes the report that was suppressed real interesting is, I believe the woman who was being stalked and had ordered the restraining order on him was apparently a had apparently at one point signed an affidavit saying that she had filed the restraining order under false pretenses. So it's kind of interesting because of course just that sort of gets the mind going of, yeah, that doesn't seem right. Why would she go through all the trouble to
yeah.
file the restraining order and then all of a sudden turn around and go, oh yeah, sorry guys, just kidding, it was all lies, just a little spat I had, no big deal, just disregard.
I I know that people will look at that and go, "Oh, she clearly lied. She admitted it," and I get that, but I I think if you have someone that powerful who keeps coming after you, and even if the law can't help, I mean, if that gets him away from you and out of your life, I can see why somebody would turn around and do that just to get that person out of his life. Because if there's something that I believe people like Bobby Kotick crave and need the most, it's validation that they're not a bad person. And if that is out there, people will believe they are a bad person. So if you harass a person enough to say, you either do this or going to make your life a living hell, I can see why somebody would break down and say, okay, fine, I will do this, but you have to leave me alone. And hopefully, oh God, not hopefully, how do I word this? If that is what happened, I hope that he stays away from her. I'll put it that way. But God, I mean, I just look at this logically and just like, because I know we when we talked about it, you told me that, and I'm like, that's interesting. And a part of me would like to say, oh, then it was all bullshit. But no, I dealt with somebody who was a stalker when I was younger, and it took some drastic convincing for this person to stop. So I know when people are unhinged, dealing with reason is a hard thing to do. So, and especially with someone with that much power, you have to try and get that exit any way you can. And it sucks. I will freely admit it sucks. But I would not be the slightest bit surprised. And we'll never know, of course, because I bet you there's an MDA or an NDA that says that she can't talk about it anymore. That, yep. Like, even if she got money, like, I'll even say this, even if she got money to be quiet, that really doesn't mean nothing happened. So because I know myself, if I heard that, I then would be skeptical. Oh, it was a payday thing. I'm not, but I'm in this case with his reputation, I'm not inclined to believe that. So
yeah, I'm almost more of the school of thought that maybe he had a PI sort of tail her and try to scrap together details about her life, and found out she had one hell of a debt somewhere, and was just like, hey, so I'll make you a deal. This one debt that's been hanging over your head for frickin' ever, just, I can make it go away. You just need to sign this affidavit saying, hey, by the way, psych, just kidding about that restraining order, and then boom, you get your payday immediately.
Or it could be something more insidious, that they found out about something she didn't want other people to know about, and he would threaten to release it. Could be that too. I mean, you're right. It could be a number of things, and we're just not gonna know. But I would really hold off on saying it was all bullshit because she signed an affidavit saying it was. Because there's clearly something that happened. And the way Bobby Kotick is and the way he has been in the past, I mean, I would venture to believe that he probably did this. So, do I have proof? No, but just look at his behavior. That's how I would look at it. But what does this mean for the gaming business, and what does it mean for Kotick as CEO of Activision Blizzard, and what does it mean for when he leaves? Unfortunately, nothing. It means nothing. It means he's gonna continue to be who he is. He'll continue to be in the gaming business after he leaves Activision Blizzard. I think we've talked about this. I can see him starting up a private equity group and buying game studios again. I could see him doing that.
Yep. Or taking an advisory position at a game company
Yeah,
or something.
that too. Yeah, that too. I mean, he's not going away, and I really, I really hate to say this, but for those of you who are wishing and hoping that he's going to get his comeuppance, it's not going to happen. Just tailor your expectations to just be sure, just to know that he's going to be around for a while. Unfortunately. Okay. Let's move on to happier news, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so, God, I think it was 2016 when BlizzCon. Was it 2016? Hold on. Let me. This is happy news. Announcement. Okay. When? No, not the official release date. Okay, when was the announcement? They're not even set. Okay, I'm gonna assume it was like 2016 because that's when I remember. Anyway, here's the video. 2018. 2018. Okay. So it was BlizzCon 2018 when a new Diablo was announced for phones called Diablo Immortal, which gave the iconic quote of "Don't you all have phones?" that the dev pretty much said on the stage, and which gave the snarky, is this a late April Fool's joke? That was a good one too.
Is this an out of season April Fool's joke?
Yes. that was great. But yeah, clearly when Diablo Immortal was announced, it was met with not great fanfare. It actually it was resoundingly panned. I don't remember, except for a few game journalists who decided to defend their honor, that they pretty much, no one was looking forward to it. Now, this did go on to have a closed beta, I think a few months ago. I think you were in the closed beta, weren't you?
No, I applied for it, but never got in.
Okay, so there's that. They announced recently that an open beta is coming on June 2nd, and that it's also coming to PC, which is a clear... Because when they announced it, they specifically said it's not coming to PC. It's just for phones. So it's clearly they must have spent the extra time developing this game to put it on PC, or they're using a shitty emulator. Either way, it's coming. But, Zero, what do you think of Diablo Immortal coming to PC all of a sudden?
It's funny, mostly because after the announcement was made, there was a lot of backlash going, hey, just some of us love Diablo, but we're sure as hell not going to play it on a phone. And
yeah,
I believe that there were a bunch of articles made about it too, of, hey, so the community is putting backlash out that that they want something that they can play on a PC, but just we've got a different philosophy on this. So, and essentially, the head of Blizzard at the Blizzard division of things, J. Allen Brack ended up making like a PR statement in shortly after BlizzCon had ended, and basically said something to the tune of, hey, we hear you that you want more PC and console Diablo, but just this is a different project. This is not for consoles, this is not for PC, just it's for phones, and we intend to keep it that way. So just there will be Diablo games for phones and consoles, but Immortals is not going to be that kind of a game.
And it looks like they're sticking to that to a certain extent. Like Diablo Immortal, I didn't, because it was a phone game, I lost interest completely in it, so I just stopped paying attention to it. But is it a run-based game where you just are doing like just timed runs, or is it a legitimate Diablo game?
So, I actually went peeking around in the Diablo Immortal subreddit for
Mm-hmm.
fun while researching
You
this
do a lot
particular
of
story.
strange things for fun, by the way. Who
So,
goes through the Diablo Immortal Reddit for fun? Come on.
poked through the Reddit, and someone had a really, really exhaustive write-up about how the microtransactions are going to work.
Okay.
And I think this is more indicative of how they have planned the game. So, the game will have apparently three currencies. You'll have gold, which is going to be
Ugh.
dropped by monsters. So, just your think of gold like in every other Diablo game, and then there's going to be like a second tier currency, which you can you can buy and you can trade with other players to for things that they put on like an auction house, and you can use this particular currency to buy stuff off the auction house, or you can sell stuff and receive this currency in exchange for your sales on the auction house. And then you have a final currency, which is cash only and bound to your account. And um, so that's how they're structuring the microtransactions. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, apparently, there's this one particular thing that you can buy, and you can only buy it with the cash only microtransaction currency. And apparently, this particular item will increase the luck that you get from doing dungeon runs.
Huh.
So you're basically you'll want they're making it so that you'll want to buy a bunch of their cash currency, buy a bunch of these luck boosting items, and either collaborate and join up with friends who have also bought the luck items, and and if you group up with a group of four, have a total group of four players all popping these luck items, then you'll be able to get the maximum luck, the best drops, and the drop rates will be much more favorable to you and stuff like that. Or if you're a filthy free to play casual type, then um, they're expecting you to either cave because you end up partying up with a bunch of people who end up popping the luck item just out of charity, and they hope that you'll convert and all of a sudden go, heck yeah, I'm buying this luck item, and I'm gonna start popping these like crazy.
Mm.
So it seems like they're doing sort of more of the rift like structure for the end game, where you'll just be going into like the dimensional rift challenges and just grind for the best items, the best weapons, etc., etc. But it's going to take longer if you don't spend any money for the luck boosting items um, versus those who buy the luck boosting items but also join in parties with everyone using the luck boosting items.
Okay, so that it's using peer pressure in order to boost sales.
Yeah, at least
Okay.
that's my take on it.
Okay. And that's it. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, that
I
that
mean,
seems to be their plan.
it's still pretty insidious, but I was expecting worse. Um, I'm surprised no cosmetic DLC, no purchasing of items to make your guys stronger, none of that.
Um, I believe that there's cosmetics and transmogs, but
Okay.
that uses, I want to say, the middle currency, which can be bought with cash, but you can also earn it from selling stuff on an auction house.
Hmm.
So, yeah, just I didn't get into the nitty-gritty of the details. I was more curious when I saw the mention of, oh, hey, yeah, so there's this luck item, but you can only buy it with cash, and if everyone in your party buys this luck item, then just you might have a lobby that might have much better RNG than, say, four people who are just going at it with no luck boosting items.
Okay. I mean, I'm still going to try it. I love Diablo. and now that it's coming to PC, they've kind of got me now, so I kind of have to play it. I would really have to play the game to see how the luck is, or the odds are, because if the odds are clearly borked and you don't get anything for it, then obviously we know what the game is going to be. But I mean, I think for this game to be as big a success as Blizzard needs right now, they need to put this on PC. And I'm surprised that they're not also putting this on console, because apparently the game is going to have controller support, and it's going to have other things too. I forgot what it read, but it's definitely going to have controller support. So do not be surprised if this ends up on consoles.
Oh yeah, I would imagine after the so-called open beta period for PC, if they feel that it's in a comfortable state, then at that point, I would not be surprised for a follow-up of, "Hey, we're doing an open beta for all the consoles, so sign up here to get notified when it's posted to your favorite respective console store of choice."
Yeah, and Diablo is not bad on console. I'm surprised to even say that, but
yeah, I mean, I'm a person who played a lot of Diablo 3 on both PS4 and Switch, so yeah, just I can second that. Yeah, the game plays well on console, so though I haven't really played a Blizzard game very much since the Blitzchung incident, so
yeah. God, that was so stupid of them. Anyway.
Yeah, but while I don't really play Blizzard games these days anyways, I will still, for journalistic integrity, I'll still probably check out Diablo Immortals both on a phone and on PC, just to kind of do my due diligence, investigate it, and go, hey, it's interesting, or hey, wow, this is absolutely a grinding nightmare.
Yeah. That's probably what it's going to end up going to be. So, yeah, I wonder how.
The closed beta impressions have really seemed to point that it's going to be a grinding nightmare, because I think some people said that just the odds seem really, really stacked against you as the player to get the gear that you need.
I really wonder what they're going to, like, is this going to be a season-based game where every 3 months they reset and they have different things, or I don't know what else they're gonna do with this to make people continue to play, because that's what Diablo 3 does on PC. They have seasons where you get newer, they update everything, but you also get new transmogs, and you also get new items that come out. So
yeah, I would imagine that it's probably going to be rolled into some sort of battle pass structure, that it'll be, hey, we have a new season going on. Oh, by the way, you want all the cool cosmetics, you gotta buy in the premium battle pass, and that'll be where all the cosmetic stuff will be hidden behind. So I would not be surprised if that's exactly what happens.
Did you hear Lost Ark has a battle pass?
Yes, I did.
I know we've talked, and I said I'm probably going to stop playing it, but I got the pass.
Oh my god, no.
I didn't know. I did not pay $45 for it. For those who don't know, Lost Ark is a free-to-play game that I've been obsessed with the past 2 months. I'm slowly getting out of it, because I'm at a point now where it's getting really grindy, and I'm kind of bored. But they started something called the Ark Pass, and there are 3 tiers. There is the free tier, there is the premium tier, which is $15, and it gives you all sorts of grindable types of items that you need. And for that, I thought that's worth $15. But there is a $45 tier that just gives you 5 cosmetic pieces that you earn at level 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. And that's $45. So you're paying $45 for the pass, but you're not guaranteed to get the items until you grind for it.
Ugh.
I looked at that and I was like, I am not interested in that whatsoever. But I'll pay $15. Durr. Boom. It's like, oh my god, what an idiot. I complain so much about this crap, but I fall for it every time.
Oh goodness.
Uh, anyway, anything else on Diablo Immortal for PC?
Um, I think the real question will be, just I haven't really looked hard into it, so I can't definitively say I know this for sure or not. But if the game does have a PvP component, I do wonder how they're going to mitigate the cheating on that because on mobile, on the mobile gaming space, cheating is a bit of a rampant problem, especially since it's kind of a big money maker as well too,
Mm-hmm.
and in kind of a really shitty way too, because a lot of the cheating services, um, they are subscription based.
Oh my god.
Yeah, as wild as that sounds, yeah. So these cheating services for Android, they require you to root your phone, which for anyone who's not in the security space, that's bad because um, it allows the phone to run in full permissions mode. But if you're not tech savvy and you forget to say secure your phone from its default root password to something else, then somebody could potentially exploit the phone and do some terrible stuff. But because these cheat subscriptions require you to run the phone in root, it's basically to exploit some hypervisors and make the cheat software invisible to whatever game you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I've seen cases like in Pokemon Unite where there have been cheat services that advertise the ability to unmask the entire arena so you can see where your opponents are if they're hiding in the wild zones of a map. So
Hmm.
you can just kind of go and say, "Oh, hey, I see you," and then just start dropping them, even
Yeah.
though technically they're hidden. So that's my concern with Diablo Immortals and having having sort of cross pollination with PC because if they don't have a good anti cheat solution for mobile, then um, yeah, it may not be a good time for PC players. But at the same time, there's also um, PC cheating services that also run on subscriptions,
Yeah.
and that could also mess things up too. So again, I don't know if the game has PvP or not, but if it does, I hope for Blizzard's sake that they have figured out how to sniff out cheaters because that's another way the game can go right down the toilet if there's a PvP element and you've just got cheaters just absolutely sniping and destroying the hell out of the lobbies.
I mean, in all fairness, for Diablo 3, there's no PvP in it, but people cheat on that anyway.
Yep.
So, you don't need PvP to cheat. They'll just use bots anyway to make their runs go faster. So,
Yep.
you're right. They need to have something on there to mitigate that. Okay, so let's get into our final question here, Zero. So, I had something lined up, but of course, big news happened yesterday as we were recording on Tuesday, and the big news Monday was Elon Musk bought Twitter for a reported $44 billion. My question is,
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts on the matter?
Um, as someone um, who's politically homeless but moderate,
Okay.
my thought is we're gonna have to wait and see what
Nazi.
happens. But yeah, my thought is really we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, and he can talk a big game on how he how he wants to make Twitter the public square and everything, but really just we have to wait until the rubber hits the road and see if he actually does that because it's easy to talk big, but it's much harder to actually do what you promised. And um, Elon's a businessman.
Yes.
That much is plain and simple. So a businessman can say some shaky promises and win over a client lickety split, but when things get real serious is when it comes down to if they actually fulfill the promise. And um, if he does, and Twitter's somehow just this magic bastion of free speech, then neat, interesting.
Yeah. You're right. We have to see what he does. The thing I think a lot of people, because a lot of people are celebrating and a lot of people are not about this, but for the ones who are celebrating, I think you need to temper your expectations a bit. Yes, he is a free speech absolutionist. He's said that before. He's proven it to a certain extent with some of the things that he's done and not done. But to be a free speech absolutist, you have to say that pretty much all speech is allowed. And that means not only your speech is allowed, but the speech of other people who have pretty abhorrent views should be allowed on the platform too. I don't see him doing that. Like, I don't see him. Like, for example, there are a lot of white supremacist accounts that have been snuffed out of the platform. There's a lot of Antifa accounts that have been snuffed out of the platform. Call me crazy, I don't see him bringing those back. I see him keeping those down. I see him keep, or if he brings them back up, he may use the algorithm to push them down. Now, he says that he's going to open up the platform and open up the algorithm so everyone sees what's going on. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm for free speech, and I am a free speech absolutist, and I feel that the best way to combat bad speech is with good speech. I've always felt this way. But people, especially nowadays, conflate violence and harassment to criticism. And that's not going to change. And this is not just one side. Both sides do it. Both sides claim harassment and they're being oppressed by being criticized for something stupid they've done. Like, I told you this past weekend, I wrote a review for Free Guy, a silly movie that I watched over the weekend, and I wrote a review of it on Twitter. I got a death threat because of, like, I'm not taking it seriously. I'm like, whatever. Like, oh, kill yourself. Thanks, buddy. Have fun. But if someone disagrees with my post and they want to call me a fucking idiot, or they want to insult my weight, or they want to insult me being a white person, they're going to do it. And honestly, I kind of don't care. I mean, if you have something intellectual to say and say that I disagree for this reason, oh, interesting. Okay, fine. You can't have that without free speech. But you're also going to get a bunch of assholes who are going to be complete assholes. So he's going to talk a big game, and I think what's going to happen is he's going to try it, but he's going to realize that in this platform with as many people as there are, and now with the government now on his back, because I don't know if you are big into politics at all. You don't have to say if you are or not, but Jen Psaki, when she was asked about Elon Musk buying Twitter, all of a sudden, after years of the Biden administration saying they are a private platform, they can do what they want, now suddenly they're concerned about Twitter being bought by a billionaire.
Yeah. And it's a little bit ironic too, because everyone who's sort of screaming about Twitter being bought by Elon, they seem to forget who Twitter's former owners were, which were
a Saudi prince,
a Saudi prince, and Vanguard. And for people who are not familiar with the Vanguard company, they're a big stock and speculation company,
Hmm.
and I believe they likely have a division that's been buying up all the houses.
Yes.
So it's just like, yeah, so you're upset, you're upset at just the fact that Twitter isn't being owned by um, your favorite billionaires now.
Yeah. And if we're worried about free speech and disinformation, Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Think about that for a second.
Yep,
One of the
that's a
richest men in
major
the
conflict of
Yeah,
interest.
one of the richest men in the world who owns a business right now that is largely being criticized for abusing their workers, owns one of the most important newspapers in the land. That doesn't concern you? I mean, yeah, I would I prefer what here's what I would have preferred. I would have preferred if the government stepped in and said, "We're regulating these platforms. You have to abide by our free speech standards. You have to each account has to be verified to be a real person, and you are given lawful duty that you cannot lose this unless the courts decide you can't have this. Like you are such a horrible person, or you're such a person that harasses and does terrible things to other people that the courts decide you can't have this. You're not responsible enough." That is what I think they should do, and I think, ironically, is what's going to happen now that Elon Musk owns it, and Elon Musk is not popular with the American government. I think that's what's going to
Yep.
happen.
Yeah, and it'll be real interesting to see how this eventually shakes out too, because of course, just I've made jokes about it in passing a lot with a lot of my friends, but um, you're familiar with the anime was a mistake meme, right?
Wait, no. If you showed it to me, I probably would be. I'm not. Anime was a mistake.
Usually,
Hold on.
usually the meme is paired with like either a hentai image or cat girl imagery or
Oh no.
something absolutely silly, and then of course just the caption will be "Anime was a mistake."
I got one that says Hayao Miyazaki anime was a mistake. Okay. I'm okay with this.
So that's kind of how I feel some days about social media. It's just like yeah, I think it was too early for humanity to have social media, and unfortunately, it's just turned into just a giant cesspool.
I think my thing is everyone should have free speech. Not everyone should have a platform.
Yeah,
And this is going to be people are not going to be happy. Some people are not going to be happy with me saying this, but you are allowed to say whatever you want as long as it doesn't result in somebody getting hurt.
yep,
It's the truth, and that's just how it is. I mean, if
yeah,
you insult somebody, that's not really hurting them. It hurts their feelings. I'll say that, but it's not hurting them.
yeah.
That doesn't
I've
mean
always
that.
been, I was gonna say, I've always been a person who had Voltaire's mindset. I may not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend your right to say it
Yeah,
with my with my very life.
yeah, yeah, but that doesn't mean that. And what social media does is it gives everybody a platform, and it's just some people are very irresponsible with a platform. Some do it to say stupid shit that they later regret. Others use it to weaponize other people that they disagree with, and you're and until something is done, that's going to continue to happen. My hope is that with Elon coming, the whole cancel culture and canceling people and not forgiving them and shit like that comes to an end or is curbed, because it's not one side that does it, both sides do it to a certain extent, but one side definitely weaponizes it to a point where it really hurts common people. I don't mind if you cancel somebody who makes or who makes 7 or 8 figures and does something stupid, and you say, I'm not buying their product. Yeah, okay, fine, I don't care. But when you cancel somebody who is a person who has a job, and because you don't like what they say, you get them fired, that's fucked, and that you shouldn't be doing. So that's my that's my 2 cents on it. I'm willing to give it a chance and see what happens, but I'm not thinking that it's gonna be. It's not gonna be the free speech bashing I think people are gonna say it is, and if it becomes that, I think things will go horribly wrong. And unless you liberally use the block button, like constantly when you're on Twitter, I think that's not going to turn out well. So, and I'm all for free speech, and I think everyone deserves to have free speech and should be able to say what they want and should be ordered and should be able to do what they want as long as they're not harming anybody. But there's a difference between having a platform and having free speech, and I think we have to we have to recognize that there is a difference to that.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree, and yeah, just it's going to be real interesting whenever this deal officially finishes and everything. So
Yeah.
And really, I think the moment when the rubber hits the road will also be with some of the interesting promises that have been made, because the big one that I'm curious about as a person who's in the computer security field is supposedly the promise to open source out the algorithms and provide full disclosure on what's being promoted and why.
Yes.
Because if the promise of transparency is there and it's made good on, that'll be really interesting to see, because I can definitely see see groups like the Electronic Freedom Foundation taking a look at it and going, wow, holy cow, so this is the reason why post A is getting promoted and post B is not? Okay, very interesting.
And I think that's why and people will disagree with this, but come on, let's be real. Why a certain political ideology was favored on that platform more than others.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been clear that the Twitter has had a left-leaning ideology. It always has. So it'll be interesting to see, and that's why people mistakenly think that the country is more left than right now. Like, people are under the impression that because Twitter is so left-leaning, that the country itself has become much more left and moved the Overton window to the left. That's not the case. In fact, I would say that it's actually moved more right in the past, say, 5 or 10 years. But I'd be really curious, because if they free it up, and of course someone doesn't delete everything before Elon gets there, I think it'd be interesting to see what they did, and I'll be really curious to see how the news outlets will report this, because if it shows that if certain news outlets were given a higher standing than others, then wouldn't these companies have standing to sue?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting point to be made.
Maybe not. I'm not sure. But it's going to be interesting. I think Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm just not sure it's going to be the resounding change people are expecting. I think it's going to be a lot more messy than people think it's going to be, and it's going to be messy for both sides.
Oh yeah,
And
because
that's how it should be.
yeah,
It should be when we come out of this. It should be both sides should be pissed because they are all both are losing something. I mean, the left is pissed clearly because their dominance on the platform is probably going to come to an end,
yeah,
and that's it. I mean, that's kind of it here. I mean, I think, and rumors are that people who work for the company are afraid of layoffs. That's definitely coming. And if the layoffs end up being in the in the moderation department, then you know he's serious. That's how I would put it. If he lays off the entire moderation department where they moderate hate speech and all that, then you know he's serious. If he keeps them, then you know that he's probably not going to be the free speech absolute as he's saying he is.
yeah. And I'm with you. I know that there's some people out there who are like, "Oh, geez, Papa Elon, biggest brain ever." It's just like, I'm not so sure. It's just like he's Elon's still a businessman. Just he can make big promises, but those big promises don't mean anything until he actually makes good on them.
Yeah, he's obvious. Okay, I hate people who say you don't need talent to be good in business. Yeah, you do. You need to be smart, and you need to have a good business sense. You have to. You don't unless you are born into it. And even if you're born into it, you still need to have good business sense in order to make a business work. You need to be good at financing. You need to be good at public relations. You need to be good at a lot of things in order to be good at business. But that said, yeah, I agree with you. He's an effective troll. I will say, to a certain extent, he is. He's
most
funny.
certainly is.
Just like, and some people will hate me saying this. Donald Trump, he was an effective troll. He knew how to get people riled up. He knew how to get both bases riled up, which helped him ascend to where he is.
Yeah.
I mean, in many ways, Elon Musk is using the same playbook. So, yeah. What are you going to do? He's not dumb. He's smart, but I don't know if for someone who is very science-based, like with cars and tech and everything, I don't know if he's the right person for something like social media. It is tech-based, but I don't know. All right. Well, that does it for this episode of the Cooperative Game Chat. Tune in next week for when we discuss all the going on in video games. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we'll talk to you next time.